Bard on the Plains podcast with Mike McPeak. It's about stories, mine and yours.
Sometimes you'll see things that trigger a memory from long ago. Recently, somebody posted a picture on Instagram. They just bought a grill. Now, it wasn't the grill that triggered the memory, although it was a nice grill. It burned wood pellets and you could control the temperature. There were pictures of smoked salmon and a smoked cake. I wondered what else they were smoking. But it was a box that got me thinking of memories long past. What was special about the box was that if you turned it inside out, it could become a playhouse for the kids to play in. They maybe could have thought the design through a little better. In order to have a window that opened, you had to cut through the dog's head. Sorry, honey, but if you want the window to open, we have to saw Rover's head in half. That's the kind of thing that therapy sessions are made of. But setting the gruesome imagery aside, it did get me to thinking. I don't remember how old I was. I think maybe I was about 7 or 8. My sister, who would have been 23 or 24 at the time, was living in Minneapolis and was working in a company that made jet-dry dishwasher soap. Somewhere along the line, she came across a department store window display that was getting changed out. I believe it was for Mr. Bubble's bubble bath product. The details are a little sketchy, but it was 50 years ago. That's half a century. I have problems with the day before yesterday, so cut me some slack. But what I do remember that it was a cardboard sailboat. At the time, I thought it was huge, but I was small, so everything is relative. It was about 4 feet long and maybe 2 feet wide with a mast and some sort of sail to it. I couldn't really get into it because it had a false cardboard floor and it would kind of cave in if I sat on it. But it was still way cool. I had a little sailor cap to go with it. I didn't really play very often with it because it was a little hard to set up and took up some space in the living room. Mom had it stored in one of the closets in the upstairs bedroom. I'm not sure what happened to it. I'm sure at some point it started to deteriorate and it had to be thrown out since it was just cardboard. But the few times I did play with it, I had a good time. I could be a pirate on the high seas, which was appropriate since I was a Willow Lake pirate. Now, don't ask me why a landlocked town in the middle of South Dakota called themselves the Pirates, because I don't have an answer to that. But it was just some simple cardboard given to me by my sister who didn't have much money but wanted to make her little brother happy. But it was one of those things that sparked my imagination, a little booster shot to my brain to start making stories. Nothing fancy or elaborate, just some simple cardboard with the magical power to transport me to places to explore. I've had a few of these over the years. Some part of an old windmill that transformed into a World War I flying ace while the song Snoopy and the Red Baron by the Royal Guardsmen was playing in my head. It's a neat song. I'll post a link to it on the show's website at bardontheplains.com. Or a Tootsie Roll dispenser that I got as a birthday present. When the candy ran out, we didn't buy any more because that was an extravagance we really didn't need. So I transformed it into a spaceship flying through the air like the ones I'd seen on Star Trek. Or just listening to the song on the radio and making up a story where you're the hero saving the young damsel from impending doom. I know it's horribly sexist, but remember, 50 years ago, times have changed, so don't cancel me. But this is how you entertained yourself if you didn't have or could afford a lot of things. I guess that's why I also take care of the things that I did have because I valued them so much. When my nieces and nephews, who were only a few years younger than I am, would come over, they would play with my toys and then just leave them out and not put them away. This led to some fights. Now, I didn't have a problem with them playing with my toys, mainly because Mom told me not to. But I did want them put away so they wouldn't get lost or broken because that was all I had. I know they weren't being mean, they just saw stuff differently than I did. So maybe I value material items more than I should. That's a discussion for a different therapy session. Bet you didn't know this was my therapy session. I'm sneaky that way. Now, I don't want to come off sounding like some sort of old curmudgeon yelling about kids nowadays and their electronic doodads. I like my tech a lot. My phone is my constant companion. It's my reminder and my organizer, my mobile office, and my link to the nerd world because there's not very many nerds in this town. I love my Xbox and my Nintendo Switch. It feeds my serious addiction to the Borderlands games. That's not as bad as it sounds. It's another therapy session for me. I can escape into a world where I exercise some control when I feel like the real world is denying it to me. I've made a hobby of taking pictures with my digital camera and turning them into inspirational cards on my computer that I've given to people. If it beeps or moves or lights up, I've either wanted it or have had it and possibly even loved it. The point is that I'm not against tech. I love it and embrace it, but I do think it has its place. But I also want kids to exercise their imagination, to be able to look at an ordinary thing and make extraordinary stories. To be the problem solver that comes up with a way out of a tough situation. To be the leader that is wise enough and creative enough to take a country in a new and better direction. To be the inventor who sees things that no one else can see. Or to be the janitor who has to figure out a way how to get X amount of stuff into a space that is X minus 1 big. So maybe we should spend more time with our kids, run around in the backyard and play games that will stimulate their bodies. Tell them stories, both real and created, to stimulate their imagination. Don't always solve the problem for them, but give them the support and advice so they can solve it on their own. Give them challenges that will fuel their determination to succeed. And listen to them when they need it. Make sure all these tools are in their toolbox, and make sure they are sharp and in good repair. It's important for them to know which tool to use in which situation. Remember, a wrench is not a hammer. I know, I've tried, trust me. But all this will lead a child to become a well-rounded adult capable of dealing with the world around them. And sometimes all it takes is some cardboard set ablaze by the spark of an imagination fanned by youthful enthusiasm to create the alloy known as humankind. Or just a cardboard boat given to a little brother by a big sister. But until next time, remember, you're the author of your story.
If you have a story you'd like to tell, contact Mike on Twitter @BardOnThePlains or by email at bardontheplains@gmail.com. For more information about the stories in this podcast, visit bardontheplains.com.